Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Super Keegan. So, something we actually did last time. I'm just going to press play, press spacebar to start the game, and if you move left and right, it creates this little section, and the gap appears. What we were actually doing is, if I just quickly pause it, if you see in the gap tree section here, all of these trees don't have a rigid body. And this gap tree has a rigid body, which makes them all fall at once. It makes it only one rigid body, makes it a whole lot less complex for the CPU. What I realized, and this is really silly for me, if we go to the object spawner script, so just in your scripts, go to object spawner. One thing I noticed is I've got this for each loop here. To literally delete, for each rigid body, it's going to delete that rigid body inside each of the trees. Now, that is not necessary because we can just literally copy this line of code, and instead of this putting it here, we can, turning gravity scale to 0, we can literally put that line of code here and change it to tree. And then we can get rid of this for each loop. And that's it. We don't need either that code. Made our code simpler and smaller, and it's actually a lot easier on the CPU because it's not doing it all at once. So if we press play, let's just see if it works. I'm sure it will. Awesome, so that it does work, and all the trees don't have a rigid body. So that's exactly what we wanted, and this has a rigid body. Everything works fine, and the coins appear. Perfect. Okay, guys, so I just wanted to quickly touch on that from the last episode, and let's get started on the next thing, in which we are going to implement some touch controls. So to do that, let's go open up our scripts folder and open up player move. Right now, we have all the touch controls for keyboard. When we ship this, we're probably going to delete all the keyboard controls, and that's fine, and just leave the iOS or Android controls. So let's create another section called iOS, and it works a little bit differently, iOS. So I'll give you guys an example now of what we're going to type. Okay, so first we'll create a new public bool is touch, and we'll equal. Let's just leave it like that. We can set it in the inspector, and we'll wrap this entire if statement. If is touch equals true, then do all this, else we do this. Cool. So we just need to create the iOS touch inputs now. So first thing we want to do is say get, well, we can just copy this. We can actually probably just copy this entire code. That's probably the quickest way to do it. And we just need to change this line, and this line, and this line. So for this we need to say if input dot touch count is greater than 0, and the game initialized script has started, then make it so we're moving, which is, we've gone through all this before, and this one is a little bit different. So we want to say input dot input.getTouch, and 0 stands for the first touch on so it's like your first finger that goes down, pretty much. Position x is greater than screen width divided by 2, and t is greater than 0.075f, and x position is less than 7. Fantastic. So that should work fine on touch devices, and we just need to do the same thing down here. So if we just copy that, paste that, we need to change this to obviously greater than -7, and we need to change position .x is less than screen width divided by 2, and yep, that will all work fine. So to test this, we can actually test it on our iPhones if you just connect in. So first of all, let's just make sure that all our code's working fine. So if we just go to Unity and check, it's throwing an exception. It's got too many brackets there. Okay, it's throwing heaps. Okay, so let's have a look at this. We have an if statement up here, and we want this is touch to end up down here. So we're actually missing one. So we can say there we go. So if is touch equals true, do the touch inputs, else do the keyboard inputs, and then move player should be back there. Cool. And then move player gets called every frame, so that's what we want. Fantastic. So let's go back and just see if that worked. Yep, cleared up all the errors. Let's press space, and you can't move left and right. But if I go to the player and untick is touch, I can play. Yay! Go to the player, quickly click untouch. Oh, just hit it. Fantastic. So that's what we want. So we can actually test this on an iPhone. If you just have your iPhone, you can or an iPad, you can download an app called I think it's called Unity Remote 3 or Unity Remote 4. I use Unity Remote 3. It does have they both have lots of bugs, but it's just a quick and simple way that you can quickly look at your project, and I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so if we connect our iPhone and just go to the Unity Remote 3 app, it'll pop up the page, and if you're connected to the same wireless network, you just click your MacBook Pro, and then just press play inside of Unity, and it should work. Cool. It looks all screwy, but we can see that after we press space, obviously, we can move left and right with our touch controls. And that's what we want, guys. So we know it works. So the right-hand side of the screen moves him right, left-hand side of the screen moves him left. Obviously, there's some errors with the animation, but we can deal with that now. Cool. So obviously that looked like a horse's ass via that app. That's okay. That's what the app does. You can't really change that. It's just for testing controls, like buttons, things like that you quickly need to just want to test. It's very old at this stage too, so I don't think they're bringing out a new one. I'm not sure, but yeah, it serves its purpose. It showed us that the touch controls do work. Now there is just a couple more things we need to adjust. So if we go back to the play move script. Under player move, we need to say this line of code here. Every time we are using the touch controls, it's not using. It's turning the animator off. So, well, setting the bool to is moving equals false. So we need to have an and is touch equals false. Oh. And we need to copy this. Throw another line down here. If input dot touch count is less than 1 and is touch equals true, then set the animator to false. Awesome. So that will fix that problem. So now we have got, that's it. We've got touch controls and we've got keyboard controls for our game. All we need to do is, if we want to use keyboard controls, we need to make sure that our is touch is turned off, and then we can use our keyboard controls and everything works fine. And he walks perfectly, everything is working great. Awesome. Sweet, guys. Okay, so let's move on to adjust some game elements. Currently, right now, as we play the game, the trees fall at the exact same speed, and the exact same amount of trees get spawned throughout the entire game. Where we don't really want that. We want the game to start off a little bit easier and then move into being harder and harder and harder the further someone goes up. Not only does this make the game play more interesting, but it caps players from getting just too good. So we're just going to go open up our object spawner script, and we're just going to adjust. We want to adjust the tokens, well, at least at this stage. We'll just adjust the spawn tree timer variable here. And we can just do that with a bunch of if statements. So we probably don't want to limit it over time. We probably want to limit it over how much the player has picked up, how many tokens he's picked up. So if we say if p underscore collide dot token. Oh. Okay, so sorry. So we need to change this to I got a bit confused there, to a public static int tokens, and just for good practice, we want to move over to our game initialize script, and we want to just say p underscore collide dot tokens equals 0, just for failsafe. Okay, so we've got our player collide script. It's public static int tokens now, so now we can access that variable throughout the entire application, and we can say tokens, if tokens is less than 25, then do this. I'm just going to have a bunch of if statements in here. Cool. So if it's under, if it's, I should say, over 24 and it's greater than 24 and less than 50, then we probably want to make this 2 and make this 4, and let's say 3. If it's over, let's copy this. If it's over, if it's greater than 49 and less than 100, well, let's say 75. 75, and less than 75, then we want to make this 2 to 1.5. And if it's between 74 and below 100, we want to make this between 1, let's leave that at 2 actually, and just make this 1.0. And the very last one, which will be just ridiculous, is if it's greater than 99, that's it. If it's greater than 99, then make it so it's between 1 and 0.8. Okay, let's see if how this plays out. So we start the game, press space. We've got to get through these first. It's okay because it gives us coins. Alright, so we got the trees falling at a pretty slow rate at the moment. Just get some coins. Oh, don't die. Really need to create that God mode. Alright, so now they should become a bit faster. Spawning a little bit faster than before, yep, and you can already tell. And I'm dead. Alright, so what we can do is just, in our start, for object spawner, void start. Actually, don't need to do that. We can just go over to our game initialize script and be a bit cheeky and say 100. Now you will see the text at the back screw up. That's fine. That's to be expected. So now there is an absurd amount of trees falling down, which make the gameplay considerably harder. Awesome. So we know that it works, and that's what we want. Sweet. Okay, so now we've added some dynamic gameplay. The trees fall at a different amounts now, and now we can get on to adding our big coin. If you remember, we created in our player collide script, we created a big token that gives you 10 extra, but right now that never spawns. So let's add that. If we go to here and we create big token, private float big token timer, I'll equal that to 30. When we brush up in this game, we'll probably adjust all of these things back to 0 and create a start method that randomizes it. But right now, I suppose we can actually just leave that at 3 or something like that, because we want to be able to see it work. Copy one of these and just call this, call this big token timer, and copy one of these. If big token timer gets below 0, then we want to spawn big token. And our big token can sit under little token void big spawn big token. Awesome. Then we can basically just take this, except we do big token timer, and we'll equal that to, say, 20.0 to 30.0. And we'll call this game object. We don't actually need to take anything from it, so we can just instantiate it by itself. And we can instantiate it's all fine. Gotta make sure we have our symbol there, and we need to instantiate the big token. Now, if we put that under here, public game object big token. Copy that, and we can stick it straight in here. Alright, so now our big token will spawn at random intervals. Well, first it will spawn at 3 seconds. We just need to go to our prefabs, and we've got our big token there. Everything is set up correctly. Starts on awake. Let's freeze the rotation in the Z just in case and everything else looks pretty superb. Cool. So if we just go to the player and we go down to, the scripts, and we go down to, or up to the big token section and just drag in the big token. After 3 seconds, we should see it spawn. There it is, and that's the big token. And right now we don't actually pick it up, but we can adjust that now. So one thing I was hoping to do with the big token, instead of just making it, if we go over to our player collide script, it's supposed to actually destroy the big token. Let me just check why it's not doing that. It's got to be tagged as big token. It's just, yeah, there we go. We got 10 more and it destroyed it. That's exactly what we want. One thing I wanted to do with the collide script is a few things. Well, first thing, I want the tokens to be like a kind of like a rarity. So they don't land on the ground. You actually have to go and get them before they fall. And it would be cool if they did the same thing as the when you pass through the gap in the trees. It'd be cool if instead of just giving you 10, it would just explode 10 coins. So first things first, let's go to the token and let's just change it for now to the log layer. So if we press play, it should just pass straight through. Sorry, I keep getting to press space. And it passes straight through. That's what we want. So, and on it, we don't want our token script, and we probably want to set the gravity scale to 0.5. No, actually leave it at 1, and just set the linear drag to 1. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, I keep forgetting to press the spacebar. Yeah, cool. So that's pretty cool. And so that gives you 10. So instead of doing that, it'd be great to just call another explode method explosion of tokens method in here. So to do that, we can just go to this trig big token if statement here, and we don't need that anymore, and we can literally just copy and paste that. The problem is though, then it sets a random range between 5 and 10, which I'm not sure if we want yet, but let's give it a go and see how it feels. So let's press play, press space, let's catch it. So I think that's pretty cool, but I think the number needs to be bigger. So how are we going to approach that? Well, there are a few ways we can handle it. I think that in our case, just for the sake of time, it might be just really simple to just copy this and just paste it, and literally just have the method in there twice, but we'll call this spawn explosion of tokens after big token. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. But that's fine. Leave it at that. It's okay. It's not gonna be the end of the world. So we can get rid of that 10, and now if we start a coroutine, spawn explosions of tokens after big token, that's this one here. We probably don't want to. The reason why I thought this would be a good idea is because, like, to create another one, why it'd be a simple solution is because we don't want them to feel exactly the same. We want them to feel different. We want them to have different audio, and we could write if statements and things like that. But it just for the sake of time, let's just copy and paste. We probably don't want to wait at all. We probably do want to play some audio. We don't want a random amount, but we do want to make this less than. Let's give it 15. 15 is a good number. It's pretty cool looking as well. And then it instantiates a token, it adds a rigid body force, creates a random direction in that rigid body will go, and then it waits for seconds 1. I don't know why we're waiting for seconds, but we might actually be able to turn this into a void, but let's not just right now. Let's just make it so that's exactly what happens. Let's just leave it as it is. Okay, so it gets all these source and it plays one shot and it does a collect token noise. We don't want that. We want it to be something different, but we can fix that in the audio lesson coming up. And the polishing episode, and then we start the coroutine, change the text, and then we destroy the token, and that's exactly what we want. Except we don't need that in there anymore, because that just all that does is activate this method, and that's what does all the magic. Okay, so let's give that another spin. That's better. Yeah, see, I like that. If we just turn off those, if we just say 10. So first of all, it will fall through the floor. We already know that. But if we get it, bang, it shoots a bunch of them. Cool. I think that's pretty groovy. All right, guys. Well, that concludes another lesson. Oh, actually, before I conclude, we need to make sure we do one thing, and that is the big token timer. We need to. Well, we probably should Actually, no, let's leave it in. I was going to say we should probably put it in the spawn gap trees. We should make it so it doesn't appear, but I think we should leave it in because I think it'll add some crazy gameplay, and it's probably rare that's ever going to happen. But players know that it will fall through the floor, and it's going to cause them to risk a heart just so they can get it. So it creates a bit more of some cool gameplay situations. Yeah, so let's leave it at that. That's the end of this episode. Tune in next time for the next episode in which we will continue this project. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try and get to people as quick as possible. And awesome, I'll talk to you guys later.